So I must start with saying that I liked the last presentation a lot for the lessons learned. And the only thing is, I'm switching this USB, hopefully that works. Only thing is, and that's why I needed to switch to my PC, I am the guy with the videos, with the sexy videos. So while I appreciate your content, I guess I am doing more of the let's say the sexy stuff. I'm a director for the utility solutions. So although Bentley does support IFC, BIM is much more than only for buildings. It's also for a lot of other infrastructures, and we regard utilities, underground utilities, as being part of that business. For today, asset management direction, we call it Beyond BIM, you could say. I'm working for Bentley Systems, and you think Bentley, that's this company, but I'm sorry to say, it's not this company, but I work for Bentley Systems, which is a software company in design and asset management tools. As said, we do support the AEC business with IFC type development and design tools. But for today, I'd like to talk about, let's say, the next phase of BIM, or it's actually also included in, as we saw in the last presentation. We are represented by Indre here in Vilnius, who is our partner, just for you to be informed. So our goal is to have software and services for building and operations, so the whole BIM life cycle, you could say. So if we look at BIM, then of course many of you know this picture, which is from the UK. Just going to the next and then back. So everybody of course knows that the UK is the source of the word BIM. And if we look back, BIM has been in our society already for a long time. It's actually, now it's nice that there will be EU BIM guidance that UK leaves the EU. I mean, it's like crazy, but anyway, it happens. So thanks for the UK, although I must say the whole BIM idea in the UK came up because their procedures were so rotten, they had to do something about it. So then they decided to work on it. But if we look at BIM and the different phases, the 2D and 3D phases in BIM, you could say we all understand, but there's more to BIM in terms of the several dimensions, as well as there are the levels of BIM. So I want to talk actually more about the level 3 of BIM, although if you look back, as Bentley, and there are others of course, we have been in BIM for a long time already. Since 1984 we are doing CAD, which is 2D and 3D. That's not only, BIM is not only about CAD, everybody would know it, also about the collaboration, online collaboration of the models, which is very crucial and elementary. And we have the tool ProjectWise, which you have also heard of the Danish rail company using for exchange of models. The whole idea about BIM, of course, is the fact that we can collaborate and that we are able to use models from different parties and have one integral view of the whole environment that we are constructing, be it underground utilities or be it a building or environment, other environment, which is crucial. So BIM now goes not only from the 2D, 3D design, it moves well into all the construction phases and to have the cost controlled, which is the 5D, and to have the timing controlled, which is the 4D. But if we look at the next phase then, we're actually looking at how can our assets perform better. And that is exactly also in the last presentation. You start with the owner and then you reason back into what kind of requirements do you have for the design phase. So the asset performance is basically what we're talking about, and that is what my presentation mainly does. So looking one step back maybe in terms of what are those dimensions. So there's the 3D models, the IFCs, etc. that you have. They are very important, obviously. But if you have a project going on, you have to have your project management well, your scheduling, etc. But in the end, the 6D, sixth dimension, you could say, is the facilities management, or same word for all the other infrastructure, we would use the word asset management. So very important in that whole phase between all those information exchanges is the word common data environment. If you look at the UK business currently, everybody understands BIM 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, but more and more you'll see the common data environment, so that's that project-wise or the collaboration layer, as a crucial component in the projects they are tendering. So looking at the Bentley applications, there are the design applications. They're basically the 2D, 3D, IFC stuff. There's the project management tool, project-wise, as you would use in your design and construction. And for now, I'm focusing on the asset management layer that we're also having a product for. So if you look at then what do owners want, and then from there reason back to BIM, but what do owners want? They want to manage their assets. So there are a few points very important in that asset management. So that is knowing the state of the asset, and we want to have that as fully as possible. What do I need to provide with the asset, and which ones are critical to be sustained? So there are some other things about the investment and replacement in the life cycle of the asset. But these are the things that an owner is thinking about. And so we have to look at tools that are maximum supporting the asset management part of the workflow. So Bentley has a tool called AssetWise. As I introduced, we have a number of different functionalities in between. I'm not going to explain to you everything, but I want to show a number of capabilities that are supporting that asset information management process. So very important, what we believe is the information management. We've seen that there are many sources of information. The BIM model is actually one, but if you're an asset owner, you have to combine all sorts of different sources. And in many cases, those sources are very disconnected. And we think there's place for a tool that will connect all the different pieces of information. Actually, the idea here is that you will have a digital twin, meaning, of course, you have your real assets, but you need a fully description, an online digital tool, basically, that has a one-to-one relationship with the reality. So there's no discrepancy between the two, between the reality and the asset information. And that exactly is what the AssetWise tool can do. So contextual awareness means that you have your assets. Could be equipment, could be a pump, it could be a part of the building. But it has a relationship with many different aspects. People work on it, do changes, do planning on it. There were certain requirements for the asset. There's certain parts of the organization. All those different aspects, they all need to be interrelated, and also the different types of documentation. So to understand, so if you have one pool of assets, let's say you have 500 pumps or so to take care of, there are different parties and also mostly different organizations keeping records about those same assets. And we want to actually unify that by this environment. To show you what it can do, this is an example from Highways England. Bentley has been involved in the major construction companies, projects in the UK, like Crossrail. Here is what we show, how you would look at a piece of network and then to the drainage system. So there's obviously a map entry, and you can display layers. But we want to know about everything about the CCTV inspections on that network. So you have the map digital model, you could say, and you have all the attributes. That's a data model, and all the attributes on the assets that you can view through. So it's not 3D at all at this moment. It's just information modeling, indeed, the data model, that allows you to store and relate everything about that same asset. Now, in this case, you'll see there are many layers that can be displayed. But the basic thing here is, on this specific video, is that we would be able to retrieve a certain survey and a certain video, asset condition survey with the same tool. But it could also be a 3D model or anything that you store on the information. Another thing that we are serving is operational analytics, which is a tool that has capabilities for a visualization of data that are monitoring, let's say like SCADA, if you know what it is. So real-time alarms, real-time sensors, big data, if you may say so, because the big data obviously is not so much in construction as it is in operation, right? So you have all the loads of data coming in from everything that is, already built. And one example that we have here is in South Australia Water that have been able to combine actual readings of their data with projections of consumption of water and the temperature, probable temperature of the future days, where they can explain and visualize everything in their, let's say, in their computer environment, and combine that with algorithms into what they would have to do in terms of water pumping. And while they were so exactly on that prediction of what water would be needed, they could save on the energy cost of pumping that water to higher reservoirs. To give you an idea how integration of reality and analytics work, this is a video mock-up, of course, of a transformer. This is reality modeling, as you may know, and I guess everybody knows reality modeling, the drone flown pictures creating a full terrestrial model. But you can relate with a hyperlink that reality model to actual readings and statistics on the transformer. So these are real-time values, you could say big data, coming from the reality and coming from the BIM model on that transformer in this case. So I think that marks reasonably well what we're wanting to do with this environment. There's another example. I think when you have that 3D model that you are creating as BIM consultants, in this case of a plant, this is an eye model, as the same technology as the Danish rail used, but then for a plant, and each of the components is intelligent. So you have the object and all the attributes of that object. But not only that, you'll see in those pictures here that there's actually reading on those equipments if you want to display that. So here you see a relationship between the BIM 3D model that you have created and the day-to-day operation of the asset displayed in one window. And obviously it's much quicker if you have that reading, and it would have an alarm to go to that object and immediately take action. So this is the asset management capability of that environment. Where am I in time? 10 more minutes? 5 minutes? Good. Okay, fine. Another one is another reality model, as you could see in full 3D. This is standard technology these days, by the way. There's a nice model by Inre from Vilnius. But each of those components can be intelligent. So if you click on one, it comes up with the object that's been identified and showing some inspection records. You can think of many different ways of using that information. But in this case, we're reviewing the inspection records. And suppose that you would be on a certain site and you want to have a certain, inspection. In this case, it is, showing on a thematic layer, good, bad, etc. So, and the next portion of the video will actually show you how this technology can be used in the inspection program itself. So there are this 3D modeling capabilities is very powerful and of course very cheap to get a lot of data, while we understand that in many cases there is not such a lot of data available and you have to capture all that information in order to do your asset information modeling quite well. So this is the inspection environment. For instance, if you would inspect bridges, which we just saw, there's a certain bridge that you are now inspecting, and then suppose that you find a defect. You can also do the smaller part of the defects. In this case, there's a fracture here, by taking a number of pictures and creating that 3D reality model on the fly. So just a few pictures going to the server, and construction complete, and then it becomes a 3D model, picture model, as you see, very small part, of course, and you can again add that to the asset information. Right, so this thing you know, this is a somewhat older video, of course. If you have those 3D models, you can, it's a bit dark, but you can easily navigate using the iPad if you're on site. And I know there are certain of those tools. I heard you saying you have that kind of augmented reality in your stand, right, in your booth. So this is relatively standard, but it is, of course, also depending on the information models that you would have. Now, Ben, there may be a last example. Underground utilities is more my hobby and design. We know there's a lot of information and a lot of infrastructure down the ground. In most cities, if you open the ground, it looks like this, and it's causing a lot of trouble. In this case, for instance, with the Edinburgh trams, a redesign of a track led to, opening of the underground, and this is what they got, and they had not planned for this situation because they did not even know. It's something that you would certainly need to know, and one of the options that you would have is to use ground radar, basically giving you a raster image. And if you would put that in a 3D point cloud model, in this case, you would know about that underground. Now, this is an ideal situation, of course, only possible if you have all the information already at hand. See the underground model here. And part of that model is actually an underground radar. So it's a penetrating scanning of the underground, as you see here, and a part of the 3D model in construction. So if you would open, let's say, more or less the ground, so this is an example of that, you could even use this for instruction to the field crews in order to expect what they will find there, and also, instruct them to do certain type of work. So this is reality, data, point cloud, plus scenario, plus 3D model, BIM model of the underground, including the utilities. So this is a scanning layer that you would see here. So one thing that we're also doing, if you're talking about underground utilities, it's very important, and that is in use in many countries in Europe already, is to have an information portal. This is an example from Bremen in Germany, where you're able to log in as a contractor and get the information of the underground, depending on a web portal that shows the maps, and then eventually you will get the PDF, for instance, of the underground layer. So, my conclusion, we are doing BIM for a long time, we're only not calling it BIM. Well, it's not only for construction, but specifically for assets. And that asset management we call BIM 6D, right? So that was my presentation, and I hope this is correct. Thank you for your attention.